Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District, March 9, 2016 at 7 p.m. Could we have members present, please?
Shaquille Ali.
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Clayton Koo.
Here.
Rebecca Douglas.
Here. All right. I believe we have some students from Susan B. Anthony School who are going to lead us in the pledge. Can you stand up and do that now, please?
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These guys are helping with this special presentation as well. So we take a moment, board members, to review the meeting guidelines. Dig down through all this stuff. This one, yeah. Ready? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition. Okay, and we have a special presentation now on the positive behavior intervention systems at Susan B. Anthony Elementary School. PBIS is an integral part of the school plan at Susan B. Anthony. Members of the Student Council will share ways in which the school promotes positive behavior and how this affects their sense of safety and belonging. So,
They're doing everything.
they're doing everything. Welcome.
Wonder why our school has a good reputation? Hi, my name is Sarai Carpio-Ao, Student Body President, and this is Susan B. Anthony Student Council. We're here today to share why the system is so important, which is positive behavior interventions and supports, or you could say PBIS. Here are 5 ways or things that we do to keep our students successful. Hello, my name is Gabby Ponciano, and I will be talking about Kachi Being Good Slips. Kachi Being Good Slips help the school because it keeps it safe. They help students as well because it teaches them to be responsible, respectful, and safe. There are 2 kinds of slips. The green one is based on 3 things: being responsible, respectful, and safe. Some way students can receive one if they hurt students and help teachers, and sometimes there are drawings and students can win prizes from them. The second slip is the blue slip. You are given one if your line is neat and quiet, or if your whole class is wearing the uniform dress code. And if you get 10 blue slips, you'll get 5 minutes of extra recess. I feel that this school is safe because of the many teachers around outside and inside of the school.
Hi, my name is Jerswin, and I will be talking about life skills, including Lobo winners. Life skills help the students like me help each other and teach them a very valuable lesson. Some examples of life skills are responsibility, effort, initiative, flexibility, and many more. Lobo is a big part of life skills too. Lobo helps kids like me try and put these life skills to a use. A person who shows a certain life skill gets him for the week. There is always a new life skill every week. These people that get Lobo are called Lobo winners. This is very special. I think life skills and Lobo winners are a big part of PBIS. One reason I feel safe in SBA because someone is always there for you.
Hello, my name is Mark. I am a representative of SBA Student Council. I will tell you about Service Club. Service Club inspires younger grades to do some good. Service Club members do jobs to help around the school so teachers won't have a hard time. I feel safe about Service Club. I feel safe because Service Club helps out people, including teachers. Again, my name is Mark, and thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Adriana Gonzalez and I'm a third grader at Susan B. Anthony Elementary School. SBA has many wonderful programs that students can be a part of and will help in everyday life. Today I'm here to tell you about 2 of these programs that help students fight against bullying and teach us how to be an ally. An ally knows when to step in, and allies help one another out when we see a problem. Part of the Soul Shop program is called Peacemaker. A peacemaker is someone that the kids at school can turn to when they have a problem with another student. We wear green shirts and we patrol the schoolyard during our recess times and make sure there are no conflicts between any students. In addition, they will also come to us if there is a conflict. We help solve their problem by talking it out and going through our special outline and special steps that gets processed through it is called the Peace Path. I feel safe at this school because we have a caring staff that is always there for us and shows us how to use life skills that we will always carry with us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adam Gonzalez and I will be talking about Spirit Points. After spring break, Spirit Points begin so students stay focused near the end of the school year. Let me tell you how it works. Each student begins with 200 points. Students can earn more points by doing homework, following directions when in line, listening and being quiet, helping teachers and fellow students. Students can also lose points by not doing homework, not listening and following directions, and being disrespectful to others. If students lose a lot of Spirit Points, they miss the chance to go on field trips and other activities. Also, if they get a lot of Spirit Points, they earn rewards like movies with popcorn on Fridays and pizza or ice cream parties. For the 5th graders, the students with the most points get to participate in Susan B. Anthony's annual Teachers versus 5th Graders kickball game. Also, I feel safe at the school because there are always teachers and adults around whenever you need them.
And I truly feel safe too because our staff is attentive. Those are 5 ways that we do to keep our students successful. Brought to you by Susan B. Anthony Student Council. In conclusion, the PBIS system has truly benefited Susan B. Anthony.
Board members, do you want to ask our impressive representative here questions about the program?
I don't have any questions, but I'm very impressed and very happy to see all of you here presenting to us right now. And it's great to hear all the different ways that you're promoting positive behavior at the school. So keep up the great work.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the same sentiments and congratulate all of you for all of your efforts in keeping and creating positive climates at your school, especially when we're watching the news and unfortunately some of you may catch a snippet of our presidential candidates and how inappropriate behavior sometimes or other types of actions that you guys have all spoke about today. And it's obvious you're getting the tools needed to ensure that you guys are responsible and respectful citizens of our community. So thank you, and thank you for everyone that's involved. Thank you. Thank you for this program.
Well, I'd like to also thank the students for coming tonight. And it's, you have to be a little brave to be able to get up there and say what you did, but you all did a great job. And you really told us what you were doing and the different aspects of the program, which makes us understand more what you're doing. So keep up the good work, and we may have the first female president of the United States sitting right down there. She looks like she knows what she's pulling the whole group together. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming. Parents, I know that they're a reflection of how you treat them at home and the encouragement you give them to be the best they can be. And of course, to the principal. She's a great leader as well. And your teachers and everybody else that's there to help you. But what I did like, I heard that each one of you said how safe you felt at school. That made me feel very good. And also that because there's always someone there to listen to you or to help you. And that's the same thing that other children will be saying about you guys, that you guys are willing to help them. And that's really great when peers help peers. So keep up the good work.
I also want to follow up and say that you guys did a great job presenting, it sounds great to hear that there's so much positive environment at Susan Anthony, and I think there's also a whole bunch throughout the district. So I'm really happy about that, and I want to thank the students, teachers, staff, just for helping to promote that and just support that program at the school.
Mhm. And I would like to echo those thanks to everybody who makes the program work and to the parents who brought the kids out tonight. I have one question, which is how long has that program been in place at SBA?
A really long time.
A really long time.
We've been doing things like this for a long time.
Okay.
A couple of things we adopted with Soul Shop just the last couple of years, but we've been doing life skills probably 7 or 8 years. We've been giving out a lot of pink slips and blue slips and this slip and that slip for a long time.
All right.
So they know what they're talking about.
I can see that it creates, a tradition and a pattern in the school of,
Nice community.
yeah, of a good community, exactly. So thank you all once again, and we do have some certificates to thank the students for coming out tonight.
So before you pass those out, I'd like
Okay.
to say a few words, but
Certainly.
as you guys organize yourselves.
Yes.
So I just would also like to thank Ms. Gardner-Burke and her teachers and the students at SBA. As Gardner-Burke mentioned, these things have been in place for a while, and it truly is a system at that school, and no doubt due to her diligence and her staff's diligence in being consistent and following through. So I always enjoy walking the halls at Susan B. Anthony because I know I feel safe. I'm not going to be run into and knocked over. But more importantly, I think the school has proven itself flexible and has been able to integrate a new system, the Soul Shop program that we're using at all of our schools, integrating that into their existing system and making it their own. And I think that the students demonstrated how it feels very natural to them. It doesn't feel like an add-on. So thank you very much, Ms. Gardner-Burke, and thank you very much, students and staff.
We're all just looking to see how to be polite.
Adam Gonzalez. Let's say the phone. Gabrielle Ponce.
Sarai, did I get that right? Yeah. Sarai Partio out, did I get it right? I see great things coming from you, from all of you. Congratulations.
So I'd like to give a certificate of appreciation to Mark Guerrero. Good job.
I have one for Adriana Gonzalez.
And last but by no means least, Gershwin Guevara. Well done. Okay, and I want to thank you all once again, and let's give them a big round of applause for coming. Somewhere here, right here. So moving on to our section on communications.
It's hard, isn't it?
Try not to dismiss them till after. Okay, this brings us to Section 7, Communications. Persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and is not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or comment on items in this section. Maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 3 minutes. And I have a speaker card from Diane Licata.
Hello, I'm Diane Licata. I'm principal at the best K-7 school currently in our district called FD Roosevelt. It will be the best K-8 school currently in our district as of next year. But I wanted to give you a heads up about what's happening at FDR and just to kind of keep you going on the K-8 system that you would like to have. So we currently revise our vision and mission statement, and I would like to read those to you because I think they're very important. We had our parents and students actually help with this. We had a whole night. And FD Roosevelt will be the best K-8 school in San Mateo County as a model for excellence and innovation in academic, arts, technology, and partnership with our families and communities. In order to accomplish that, we would like our mission to be that we will provide all students with a high-quality education that is developmentally, academically, emotionally, and socially appropriate. We strive to prepare all students to be well-rounded, respectful, and confident citizens. So in knowing that and what we're striving to do, we're very serious about it. If we're going to do this, we want to do it right. We have currently 4 special day classes. We have 69 special education students, and our resource classroom currently has 20 students on it. Our school site currently has 89 students 4 days per week at our school site. We do not have a counselor. Currently, we actually did a our school psych is awesome, so is our whole staff, but she did this whole report that really showed how much time she is actually using besides just testing for special education, for assisting teachers. She's actually going and teaching some programs. Her and myself, we become like extra counselors, and so we did bring that to the district, and I appreciate that we currently interviewed some great people, and hopefully we'll have that person says yes, and we'll have 3 days a week at least with a counselor to the end of the school year. Our average classes are about 22 in K through 3, and 4th, 5th, we're currently at 30 students. We have 1 split class with 31 students. 40 of those students at one time during math, I want to make sure that you know that 40 students are in one class at one time during math so that the teacher doesn't have to teach 2 different math programs. And it's teacher's excellent, it's working out really well, and both the 4th and 5th grade teachers decided that's what they want to do. They need to make sure all the students learn, and that's what they chose to do. And they're doing a great job. It's amazing. With some difficult students, they're doing a great job. We have 2 6th grade classes averaging 20 students. We have the 7th grade classes averaging 16. We currently lost 2 students this school year for other junior highs. They were very kind in letting us know why. They wanted a snack bar. They wanted a lot of other things that we don't have, and that hopefully we'll be growing to. But I do want to mention that currently also in our office, we have 3 rooms. So my office, the principal's office, we have the psych office / nurse sometimes / counselor, and we have our clerk typist office, the nurse school office. So between 3 rooms in our office area, between 3 rooms, there are 12 people that are sharing the office at one time throughout the day. Playworks, we have a full-time person there, awesome coach. Our certificated PE teacher is awesome. He also shares. We currently fund the pyramid counselor 1 day a week, so she shares my office or the school psych office when they're not there. Our psychologist, our psych intern, myself, the clerk, the nurse, the secretary, our school county mental health, because we have several students that are seeing 2 different people from school county mental health. We also have social workers visit. Actually, it used to be twice weekly. We've actually cut that down to where, no, it is still twice weekly, sorry. Child Protective Services used to visit monthly quite often, about 4 times a month, and that's cut down to about 2 times a month. Maybe we'll see somebody from CPS. We have 2 adult restrooms located in our school office, so if you're welcome to come to our campus. It's very large, so the teachers have to walk all the way up to the front of the campus to go to the bathroom. In our multi-use room, we do have an extra room kind of in the back. We call it the patio area. We've cleaned that out, so our Think Together program is a wonderful after-school program. It's very organized. I really hope they don't leave, but they're very organized, and they actually need that room because the staff person's there on site for starting about noon, and then they're there and they train throughout the day, their staff once a week, and then they also involve themselves during the day with our students. And she also shares that room, and our multi-use room is shared with our occupational therapist and our physical therapist. Sometimes we have a PT person also come. So I'm giving you this information because as we start to, I want to mention that our 7th grade class currently, because it's so small, we have very few students actually getting C's, and those students that are getting C's are already getting modifications, accommodations that they need. All of our 7th grade students are getting like A's and B's because they are such small classes. And it just happened that way. There's no way you can, judge that, but we do appreciate that, and I appreciate all the teachers for working together collaboratively. We have a lot of mainstream students, so which means they have a lot of work to do with modifying and accommodating work. And I'm just asking that as we plan currently for the next school year, I'm going to be giving you my numbers for classes. We will have to have a split class again. I mean, I'm trying to do the numbers all the way we can. We don't have the room. If, I can present later on a map of our school and where everybody's located, even by moving people around, we don't have the room because we need the room for our resource kids. We need that for our resource kids. We need it for our PT, our OT. We don't have a band room. So currently we're going to be changing this next school year our art room into the 8th grade class, and then we're taking the computer lab out and we're making that into the next 8th grade class. And then we're kind of stuck. So even if we didn't want to split class, we have no other rooms to go to. So as we plan in the future, it would be nice if we weren't penalized for being such a small school, because as I do the numbers and I think about, okay, where we're at, how we're going to grow in the next 5 years, there's not many options there unless we do have portables. The options won't be there for us to
Ms.
grow.
Licata, I know that we turned off the timer, but it's 3 minutes per
Okay.
speaker, and you're on to
No
minute
problem.
number 8. So wrap it up, please.
Sure. So, let's see. I'm asking that in the future, we think about portables, a place for our students to play sports, because our multi-use room is used, rainy day PE, music, 1 time per week, OT, PT, and we're asking for an additional clerk typist because we don't have we really don't need an attendance clerk. We don't need an attendance clerk, but we do have everybody's a team and everybody's counseling right now. So just wanted to give you a heads up about what's happening at FDR and look forward to making it a great school. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also have a speaker card from Ms. Melinda Dart.
Hi, Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. Just got that number right, yeah. Just want to remind everyone that we have a conference coming up on March 19th called The Schools Our Children Deserve, aimed at parents and educators in North County. And we will be raffling off 2 iPads at that conference, just like we did a couple years ago. And people can still register for this conference. It is free of charge. There are going to be a lot of giveaways, books for children, and backpacks and various goodies that are being given away. So we want our community here to get them. So please, out there, tell your friends and neighbors to register at www.aft1481.org/schools our children deserve, with the caps for schools our children and deserve. Parent conferences are going on right now. You might know that. We just want you to be aware that teachers are talking to parents from 7:30 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night in some cases. And also, as is traditional and part of Ed Code, pink slips are going out to temporary teachers at this time. And while that may just seem like a procedural part of life in our district, because it happens every year, every time it happens, it's painful to the temporary teacher who gets that slip. There's nothing quite as painful as being told that your services are not required when you are working as hard as you can. and especially in this week when you're staying late and talking to parents. So I've heard that in this day of teacher shortages that some districts around us are no longer doing the blanket pink slip. So I hope that we can look forward to a time when we might not have to do that, because as you know, there is a shortage, and sometimes we lose some of these teachers when they are not sure that they're coming back. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have administrator comments. Ms. Kessler?
Well, our children are gone, but I think it's wonderful that we are helping them learn different ways of behavior when there's conflict and difficulties, because there is going to be, and hopefully they will bring it into their adult years, because as we know, that election is coming, and I know we don't have many people here, but if you do have somebody that you know that is of a voting age and not registered, registration forms are in back. We still have time, and everybody should vote so that their voices are heard. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, having been a neighbor of Susan B. Anthony for many years and watching, sorry, my voice is a little shot here. The way the kids manage it up there and the peace on that campus, it's something they could really show the kids down the hill at Policita, and I'm sure the other middle schools a little bit about. I was just actually up at FDR last week. I attended the joint AFT Jefferson School District Math Night event. Great event, a lot of action going on, lots of stations, families were involved, kids were involved, staff, and it was just a nice event to see people working together, and I just want to again say thanks to all the people that were involved in getting that together. And finally, we have a couple of our teacher recruitment fairs are here this weekend at San Francisco State. There's a recruitment fair that Ms. LaRock and Dina Conti are going to go as representatives of the district, so that's really exciting. And then early next month, there's a San Mateo County Office of Ed job fair. So really jumping into this early. And fortunately, we don't have the kind of hiring we need to do this year as we did last year. So that's my share.
Okay, board member acknowledgements and commendations. You ready, Mr. Reardon?
Well, I attended the community schools meeting that was sponsored by AFT 3267 and also the high school district. And was there another sponsor?
I think that was it.
All right.
And our district.
Of course, our district. So that was a great event. A lot of community leaders were there, educators, and people who can really implement the idea of having schools be the hub of the community and meet all the needs of not just our students, but even adults in the community after school hours and on the weekend. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses in our district. And I believe that's it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Happy Women's Heritage Month. Tomorrow we will have our Women's History event for the City of Daly City here, tomorrow at 5. I'm not part of the organizing, but I think it's wonderful that not too many cities get to have their own celebration, and this one is ours. So I definitely encourage everyone to come. I am on the status of Commission of Women for the county, and our celebration is smaller this year, but we will be doing it at our meeting on the 22nd. So if you are in Redwood City at the county center, that's at 7 p.m. On March 22nd. This weekend is also Junior Ranger Park Day, the National Park Service. So if you go onto their website, you're able to call into the number and get free tickets for your family if you have children that are K to 5. And it's free. So I encourage everyone to take advantage of that. That is this Sunday all day. Boats go out every half an hour, so you go onto the National Park Service website. I do want to say, I know we don't comment on what we hear, but I, as a board member, am always happy to hear about the happenings around. Our administrators do a great job of keeping us informed, but I know we don't always get to get out there to the school sites. I know that we like to, but we also, most of us are 9-to-5ers, so we're here right after that 5 o'clock. But I mean, it is our job to be informed and to know the pulse of what's going on. So anytime that feedback comes from the community and of course the administrators, I think as a board member, I know I welcome it because it keeps us informed and helps us to do our job better. And I welcome that, hearing that feedback from the community all the time. So I always appreciate hearing from you all. But thank you, and again, please thank a great woman in your life, because this is the month of all months of the year to celebrate that leadership. And there's a lot of great leaders in this room, so thank you.
Well, I wasn't able to attend too much recently because some of you probably had heard I got some kind of a bug, and it lasted like almost 4 weeks. So it kept me pretty much around the house. I did miss the last meeting as well, and I wanted to go to that community meeting so badly, but I missed it. But you know that my spirit was there, and none of you would have wanted to catch what I had. But anyway, so with that, I will say I'm back and I'm all right, so I can start going to things now. I just want to thank the children aren't here, but just to put it so that it'll be written in the minutes, to thank them for coming and doing such a wonderful job explaining their program at the school. And also that we thank the staff and everybody who has anything to do with it. Forgive me if I forget, but did we close the meeting in memory of Starl Driscoll?
Yes, we did.
Okay, sorry. That's how sick I was. I don't remember anything for the last 3 weeks. No, it's like, but okay. If not, I did want to bring that up. I just wanted to say something nice about. As you know, we've talked before about the partnership that Garden Village has with Broadmoor Property Owners Association, and while it hasn't been sent out yet, they did vote at their last meeting to give a nice donation to George Washington School in memory of Mary Ann. And so don't say anything just yet, no. Because the secretary that hasn't been very well has got to type the letter to the husband. I know, I just realized that.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows now.
Tomorrow they'll watch it on YouTube.
But anyway, but I won't say how much. How's that? That'll be still be a secret. But it just, her husband was president of Broadmoor Property Owners for several years. And that, and also the fact of just knowing what she had done so much for the schools, just made our organization, all of them, say yes, they wanted to do something in her memory. And I think that comes at a really special time that we're thinking about leaders, women leaders. Woman leader can be almost anybody. It doesn't have to be someone who's got a big title. But when you lead a classroom, that's being a good leader, because you're making a difference in the lives of other children who will probably follow in your footsteps. So for that, I think it's really important that we recognize people all the time for what they do. So I'll just say a big thank you to everyone who is so helpful to even one person in their life. Sometimes someone just needs a mentor, someone to listen to, someone that shows them respect, and it'll make a difference in their life. And I think we look around the room, there's many of these people sitting here that have done that, whether it's in the classroom or as an administrator, just saying that I'm there to help you. So let's continue doing as many good things that we can do and recognize our children and the parents who really knock themselves out sometimes too. And let's look out for more community support. We need that terribly, we really do. And I just spoke with the PTA president, Sharon from Brown. Okay, thank you. Emily Brown. I was trying to think, wait a minute. I keep thinking you're still there, but you're not. But anyway, she's done a tremendous amount of outreach to the community to get help for that school, and it is looking beautiful. Nothing about, no. You did a great job too. But I'm just saying is that she's going the extra mile right now as a parent of children there to say, I want our school to be the best that it can be, the way it looks. So it's getting Home Depot involved in things. So if we can reach out to as many parents who are willing to take that extra step, it makes a big difference to the school and to the children and to the neighborhood. So let's keep that in mind. Okay, that's it. Mr. Koo?
This week, actually last night, I went to the PIAC meeting. There's parents and their parents and students from throughout the school district. They were talking about similar to what we talked about last board meeting about the LCAP process and moving forward to next step. And they did remind everyone there that the second Google form to fill out the LCAP process is out right now, and I think the deadline is April 11th. So I just want to let everybody know about that. And the deadline is April 11th. And then a couple things else came up. On April 9th, there is a family literacy and health fair at Susan B. Anthony, from 11 to 2. So they wanted me to get there. There's lots of books and activities and local community events, local community groups there as well. So I want to let the word about that. And then I know the process to apply for high schools has passed, but I know that Terranova tomorrow night for prospective students is having an open house from 6:30 to 8:30. So if anyone's interested in going to Terranova, who has a middle school student or just is interested in learning about what the school has, that's available for students as well and parents.
I have a great deal to add. It was a lot of the places that Mr. Ali was. And don't need to say anything further. I don't think the community schools meeting was good and inspiring, and it's nice to see we're moving in the right direction. And later in the meeting, I'll be coming back to some of the things that tie into the right direction on that. Without further ado, then I will pass it on here to Mr. Vidalis for comments and correspondence.
Yeah, I just have one short one. This might be in your mail folder. You should have received it. Sodexo, our food service provider, is doing a Future Chefs contest. So 8 students across the district submitted recipes and were selected. And they're going to be preparing those recipes and participating in a contest on a variety of attributes. So that's going to take place, I believe, on St. Patrick's Day from 3:15 to 4:45. 3:15 to 4 is the actual preparation of the food, and then the 4 to 4:45 is the judging and the award ceremony. So if you can make it, it's going to be at the central kitchen. And then you can also see the new paint job of the maintenance warehouse building that was completed this fall.
Did you say we got it now?
Should have received it in
Hers
there.
doesn't seem to be
I don't
there.
have it.
Yeah, she doesn't
I don't have it.
There.
Oh, thank you.
I figured it.
Sorry, I forgot one thing I just wanted to mention, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that while this food pantry program is based out of South City, it will be coming to Serramonte in April. So the food pantry program that is a collaborative effort out of South San Francisco's Baden High School is on Tuesday the 15th from 4 to 6. If you're a San Mateo County resident, it's just self-certification. And the reason why I bring it up is we've seen a lot of teachers come through and refer families over, and they walk out of there with 4 boxes of food. They get chicken, rice, milk, bread, just tons of food. And seeing a lot of our families still in need that are working poor, please refer them over. And then we will be seeing that program here out of Serramonte Del Rey beginning on the 27th. And I think that is the 4th. If I'm correct, it's the 4th, 1, 2, 3, 4, actually, yeah, the 4th Wednesday of every month at 3 o'clock out of Serramonte Del Rey, so that we can refer our families over there. So it is self-certification, it's there, it's free, everyone is welcome. Please take advantage and please share. If you need more information, please reach out. I can share the flyer with you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's an important announcement. Okay, so this brings us to section 8, general functions and the consent agenda. Could we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Ali. We need a roll call vote, please, Ms. Cabrera.
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela.
Aye.
Mr. Koo.
Aye.
Dr. Douglas.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, item D, the Jefferson Elementary School District Sports Program update. Nicholas Wolf, teacher at Ben Franklin Middle School and after-school sports facilitator, will present on the Jefferson Elementary School District Sports Program.
Yes, so one of the first things I saw on my desk when I moved into my new position was a Post-it that said Nick Wolf, after-school sports, and a phone number. And I've worked with Nick in the past, but subsequently getting into this program, he's just done a fabulous job bringing the program back online. This year we've had the girls and boys volleyball, and then we have track and field coming up. And he's just been terrific coordinating, bringing everybody together. So tonight he agreed to just talk a little bit about that program for us. So I'd like to introduce Nick Wolf.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I apologize if I seem nervous. I've never spoken in a setting like this before. So,
Back to school.
so like Brent said, we started with volleyball. It was a boys volleyball season in October and November, and a girls volleyball season that just ended on March 1st. The 4 middle schools, including FDR, participated. So Fernando, Ben Franklin, TR Policita, and FDR were in it. I wanted to acknowledge Cecilia Aquino, who is the coach and is a certificated PE teacher at FDR, for just making, the league is so much better with 4 teams as opposed to 3, and they're at a competitive disadvantage with just less students to pull from, and they don't have a gym to practice in. So he kept their spirits up, and they were really positive and seemed like they were having a great time, even though they didn't compete as closely as the other schools did. But I'm just really happy with the job that he did. The 2 championships, Fernando won the boys championship against Ben Franklin. TR Policita just beat Fernando last Tuesday in a really close match that was good. All the students that participated received a T-shirt, which was their game jersey, had a number on the back. They get to keep that T-shirt. The championship teams received a medal with an engraved, it's just their school name and what year they won the championship, which I thought was pretty cool. And the district provided transportation to the games, which was necessary for the program to work. I kind of just wanted to run down the benefits of having an after-school program and playing youth sports. Just a few bullet points that I wrote down, and I actually printed them out. I don't know how I disseminate that, but here you go. So students gain confidence and self-esteem when they play sports. It's a greater connection to the school, being a representative of their school when they travel around the school district playing other teams. They have stronger peer relationships, being on a team and playing for each other. There's a family attachment to the school community. Parents come and watch their kids play sports, which is a great attachment, I think. Student athletes display more restraint when in avoiding risky behavior, doing something that they may make a better decision if they're on a team, if they're playing with a group of people, and their actions. I think they consider, their placement on a team when they're deciding to make certain decisions. Student athletes engage in valuable, positive relationships with adults. Fitness is improved, hand-eye coordination is improved. Athletes learn teamwork, working together to achieve a common goal. Athletes learn time management, so juggling practice with homework, with competitions, with their social life. I think it's a good building block for everybody to kind of be able to manage their activities in their life. Sports provide an escape, which serves as a stress reliever. And it provides a positive activity for students after school. They're not on the sofa and they're not getting into trouble. The track season's coming up. We have a track meet on April 8th and then another one on April 29th. Those are both Fridays. Coming up pretty soon. The same 4 schools are participating. The track meets are going to be at Westmore High School. Students will get a T-shirt. The students that participate will get a school T-shirt. And the district, again, is providing transportation. I also have, and this is soon to be finalized, a code of conduct that I and one of the volleyball coaches have kind of put together, and Mr. Vidalis reached out to me today and said that it lines up pretty well with board policies 6145 and 6145.2. And I took a screenshot of those on my phone. I could read those to you, but I think I'll pass. All right. And so here's the code of conduct that we anticipate being final in the next day or so. And that's all I have, but I definitely appreciate being able to talk to you guys, talk about the program.
Well, don't run away, because I'm sure some of us will have some questions.
Sure.
Yes, well, thanks for coordinating this and bringing it to fruition. This is something that I was interested in since I first got on the board, and it took us some time to advocate for it, push for it, and then, of course, put the money there. And so here we are, right? So thanks. I'm sure the students are elated, and it just reminds me of when I was in middle school that we utilized sports for all the things that you said, and we were really encouraged to be scholar athletes when I was in school as well. So I know that Daly City youth really enjoy being outside and exercising, or in the gym too, not just outside. But anyhow, thanks for all the work you're doing with this. And I actually would like to see, some of the athletes come here so that we can thank them in person,
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for your work. It's very important, and a lot of times I know it's a thankless job. As a mother of many children who are all gym rats, who have gotten to college because they played here at Westlake Park, or at many of the parks they did intramural. My daughter got a softball scholarship playing from Ben Franklin, and we didn't have transportation back then. We had to leave work to rush over and get her to the 3 o'clock game. So I love hearing that there's now transportation, because I know that's a huge help for parents. I love that the district is doing that. I love hearing about that. And definitely hearing all of the skills they pick up. I think what I loved most hearing from you was when you said ownership from the family, because that's community building. And that's something we continue to want to see grow. And that's something that the kids get from trusting someone and sharing that, and then that resonates through their families. And I love that you brought that up, because they're not just playing sports, they're doing so much more. And I can attest to that. And I'm glad to hear that it's happening, that magic is happening in our district, and that you're facilitating that. So hats off to you, hats off to everyone out there. And I'm looking forward to figuring out, I know Clayton likes to get out there too, so I might tag team with them and come out and check you guys out in action. So thank you very much for your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you talked about Westmore High School having some meets, and on Friday, but when?
It's April 8th and April 29th.
April 8th and April 29th. Okay. We'll try and see if we can, and then what, is it 3 o'clock?
Well, we're going to leave the schools at 3 o'clock and hopefully start by 3:30.
Okay. So if I want parking, I got to leave early. No, just kidding. I just wanted to say thank you for all that you're doing. I've been here a little bit longer than some of these board members, so I remember when we had these programs and how wonderful they were. And unfortunately, because of finances, it went away. And I'm so glad it's coming back, and it's coming back where the children can really participate. Because it doesn't matter whether it's sports, dancing, music, whatever it is that your child is interested in, it builds character, and it makes them, I love when you put it down here, because it's true, athletes learn time management, because you got to be able to go to practice or you're in trouble. Got to do your homework or you're really in trouble. And you have to be at the competitions, and you still want to have some time to yourself. That's time management. And I remember when my son was in high school, he broke his shoulder what is this thing, shoulder bone?
Collarbone.
Collarbone. And there's nothing, they don't put a cast on it, you know. So he couldn't do his sports and, you know, blah, 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 couldn't do a lot of things. And I got a call from the principal saying, get him involved in something right away, because he was an A student, but it was like, looked like maybe he might be slowing down. So it's true, the more you do sometimes, or time management, the more the child will get everything done, as long as it's not really overburdened. So it's important. I like that. I saw that there as well. And so you're a PE teacher, are you?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I kind of thought you probably were, but I wasn't sure. Anyway, so thank you for what you're doing. It's just sort of the beginning. It can grow and grow and grow. The other question I was wondering is, for the T-shirts and the medal and the cost of transportation, is that all from the district?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we know we talk about community. There are people out there that we more than willing to sponsor different teams or different schools. Let's go for that, and we can have the extra money to do something extra special for the kids too. So if, you know, we all need to think of outside the box, how are we gonna support the things we don't want to ever go away, and how can we improve it and make it even better than it is? So we're all here to help you, even if it's just telling you things we would like to see. But go for it. I mean, before you know it, we should have the cheerleaders out there cheering for those kids and everything else. I mean, it opens the door for so much community activity. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
For what you're doing. And don't be scared when you come.
After all, those little third graders forget.
They made me nervous.
I know. Like, oops.
I want to say thanks for your presentation. Thanks for all you do. I know full well how important after-school programs is. Some members know I was actually a volunteer basketball coach for one of the elementary schools. So I know how important it is to make sure that they feel like either whether just sports or activities that they kind of build skills like teamwork, kind of how hard you work is how well you'll play, and just kind of learn those life skills that kind of sports kind of teaches you outside the classroom. So I just want to thank you for all that you do for that and making sure that kids in our school district get that opportunity. My sister ran track at Fernando, so she knows how important sports are as well too. So I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you. I forgot to thank Brent for being so helpful too with the program and just being very easy to work with and just really has helped me along the way. So I want to acknowledge Mr. Valenti.
You know, and I want to throw in, just, you know, thanks to everybody for that. I also want to throw in there for all the kids, you don't have to be any good to get a lot out of being in sports. I was the worst member of my high school track team. I was the worst member of my high school soccer team, and I still got a lot out of being on those teams. So, you know, it's not, I just want to throw that out. It doesn't have to be about being the best athlete. It's about being part of the team. So it's great that we have that for our students.
I have to add something to what you just said. That was really great. I love it. Two things. Number one, a really good coach inspires the children to play, for the students to play, and to be the best they can, but also probably prepares them that it's okay to not win. I don't like to use the word lose, but to not win. It just means you work harder the next time. And that, to me, that's so important, because you see some coaches that just get mad at the kids if they're not going to win. You know, it's not about that. It's about being the best you can be. But the other thing is to talk about being, I was president of the Girls Athletic Association in high school. I couldn't play any sports. The only thing I did was bowl. But I got my letter in bowling. Hey, you know, I did. But it does, like you say, it doesn't matter how good you are in something. It's how you participate and that you're part of the team. So thank you, and I'm sure you're doing exactly that right now.
All right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Before you sit down, Mr. Wolf, so I just want to say thank you to you for agreeing to take on this responsibility / task, working with Ms. Hopkins with the grain of an idea that we had and taking that and then continuing to work with Mr. Valenti to bring it to fruition. And, you know, I know we have plans to grow it each subsequent year, but you know, this first year has been great to see it come back. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So you and I are not playing sports.
I was also thinking about what changed with Title IX. And when I started high school, we had very few sports for the
Right,
girls.
right,
And they
right.
came in as I came into high school, which I guess just dated myself, but never mind. And it's great to see that now we don't even think twice. Of course, if we're having sports for girls and boys. You know, my mom was an athlete. When she was in college, high school and college, she played basketball, and they made girls play 6 on a side because girls can't run. Every time I watch the women at the Olympics, Summer Olympics, I think about that, like, girls can't run. So it's nice to know we've made some progress.
Yeah.
Okay, item E, the 2016 CSBA Delegate Assembly election. We can select up to 3 candidates to be considered as delegates to the CSBA Delegate Assembly. And I believe at this point there are, in fact, 3 candidates.
That's it, right?
So we have
Big
the
decisions.
we have the option of supporting 1, 2, or all of them, or none of them. That's, you know,
There's an option of submitting a write-in candidate. but-
that too.
so.
If there's any discussion or comments or questions on that.
I have none.
I want to say that my personal feeling and recommendation is that we vote for all 3 of the candidates.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've worked with all 3 of them, so they're
Yeah.
good.
These are good people who are working hard for our students.
And the only thing I would looked at, and I think some of us discussed this once before, is that sometimes we don't have enough representation from our side of town, down this way.
North County, you mean?
Yeah, that's what they call it, but I don't know, because.
The largest city in the county?
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, so at least we have at least 1.
Yes.
Well, 2, San Bruno's not that far away, but, and Burlingame, but it's just kind of like, sometimes it seems like everything's happening way down there instead of up here, so. But I'm pleased with the 3 people.
Then I would call for a,
I'll make a motion then. I'll make a motion that we vote for Mark Friedman from San Mateo Union High School, Alyssa McAvoy from Redwood City School District, and Kalima Salah Houdin. I have to practice that one too. Okay, I know her well, I call her by her first name. Okay, so I'd like to nominate that we vote for them to fill the position of delegate, for the Delegate Assembly for California School Board Association.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No. That is unanimous.
And this, I think if I'm not mistaken, is still the way it used to be, it's considered 1 vote for the district.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
we
so
get
it's
a
one.
vote.
A vote.
And I believe that is voting that gets them like onto the ballot for the next round or something.
No.
No,
This
no,
is
this is it.
This is it, okay, yeah.
This is it,
We finally made it to that point.
yeah.
Okay, item F, the Governance Handbook 2016 updates. The administration recommends the board review and adopt the Jefferson Elementary School District Governance Handbook 2016 updates discussed and developed with the assistance from the California School Boards Association at Governance Leadership Workshop on January 30th, 2016. New revised or updated information is highlighted, and we did discuss this briefly at the last meeting as well. And I don't know if there's any further comments or questions or discussion on that.
No, it's,
I'm good with it.
yeah, I'm good with it, yeah.
Okay. If we are all happy with it, we could have a motion to approve those adjustments to our handbook.
I motion to approve our Governance Handbook 2016 with the updates.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay.
Aye. Oh, I forgot to say aye. Aye.
Oh. I assumed that since you seconded it. Okay, board subcommittees. The board will discuss the purposes for and whether the board will create board subcommittees, as well as the subject matter jurisdiction they would like to grant those subcommittees. Board subcommittees are subject to open meeting laws and discussion restricted to items on the agenda. If subcommittees are created, the board will appoint 2 members to serve on the subcommittees. Mr. Vidalis, do you have any further
Yeah, so this is a discussion that's been ongoing, and so I just, would need some direction here. So as mentioned, and in some of the backup, there's a descriptor of a board subcommittee and the requirements of such. The other option that exists, and I would put forward is, I would also like to have superintendent subcommittees that are more conversations, less meetings, but just opportunities for me to get feedback on district initiatives and perspective. So if the board wants to set up subcommittees, we can do that. I'd have recommendations for areas that we could do that in, like budget and facilities, I think would be a good one. Technology, curriculum, and instruction would be another one. I think those three would be the minimum that I would start with. But then we would need to set those agendas and post them and go through the whole Brown Act. On the other hand, if you would want me to set up committees, superintendent committees in those same areas, I'd be happy to do so as well. But you don't vote on that, you just say it's okay for me to do it, and I'll do it.
The nice thing about doing it when it's the board subcommittee and that it's posted and all that is that people know we are actively interested in these items. And also, if somebody really wanted to learn more about it, they might be able to come to the meeting, which they usually don't, but they might. So that's sort of engaging the community and sort of engaging everybody to, that's the only reason I kind of like it. And, but whatever the board decides.
Well, I support it. You say you kind of like it. I wholeheartedly support it. If we're going to have committees, I think that it would be beneficial and proactive to have board committees. And I would just say that we have to also just be aware of not micromanaging. But I think it's better to be seen as proactive as opposed to reactionary or even as a rubber stamping board. So I wholeheartedly support it. And the two committees that I was thinking that would be beneficial would be budget and curriculum and instruction. And that's not to like have meetings every month or anything like that, but maybe to fill in the gaps between the times that we set or we approve the budget and then we get reports. Maybe sometime in between there, we could just have 1 or 2 meetings a year. That was what my idea was. And same thing with curriculum and instruction, because when we approve the LCAP, then there's a whole year that we have to wait before any type of major adjustments are made. So at least if we have this committee, we could bring things to the table in a structured way, and it would be transparent to the community as well. But I also support and would not want to block any superintendent committee that that Mr. Vidales brings, to our attention as well. But I just felt like when they were presented as district or superintendent committees and then we didn't meet, there was a lot of discussion around that, and I know that Ms. Brizuela, for instance, would not be happy when we didn't meet with the city, but we weren't under obligation to meet because it's just whenever you want us to come together and get some information or, so to speak. But so I don't think we need a lot of committees or board committees. I don't know if we're even going to have one, but I do support it.
But we currently do have board subcommittees. We do have the city committee, the PIAC, the
Neighboring districts.
neighboring districts, yeah.
But that's
And
back to
those
the.
are official board subcommittees.
But those weren't committees that we decided as a board that we wanted. Those were recommended by the superintendent.
Those
So
are
that's-
traditional committees, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why, I think that's why we're having this discussion tonight, right? Is because there was a few board members that felt like there was some committees that weren't there. So if these are board committees, how come we didn't get a chance to say what committees that we were gonna, So.
At one time we had them, and I think that there was something going on that felt like there's no meeting because there was nothing urgent to talk about. But I believe that if you have a meeting and you can discuss within the group that you're meeting of things, ideas and things, that's when you make things happen. You
Right.
don't wait until, oh my God, we gotta have a meeting quick because this is gonna fall apart. So we should be active in holding a meeting and welcoming, whether it's a city to get together, how can we work together to do this and this and this? You don't have to wait till we're selling property.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why we weren't meeting, I think. There was, well, there's nothing to talk about, but there is a lot to talk about. There's a lot of partnerships that we have, that we could have with the city, as well as other school districts, or in this case, within our district. What do we want to see? I mean, we heard tonight from a principal that is talking about wanting to make the best school coming up, and maybe there is a time when that discussion will take place, that we could, hear and add to it. But it wasn't, one thing I think that we have lost track of is that when you're appointed to a committee to represent the board, you're not there speaking for yourself. We need to get the information from the rest of the board. What would you like us to take to that meeting? And then it comes back to us for approval.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, I think people are aware that those are not decision-making bodies, those are information, and the key element is the bringing it back to the board, as we gather the information, or if the stuff is coming up under discussion, that then would come to the attention of the board.
I also am supportive of the board subcommittees, but I do want to make sure that when we revisit, now that we are revisiting and having this dialogue, that we look at the purpose of the committees and its correlation to our vision as a board and what we're trying to do, and ensure that we're aligning that, because sometimes we might have subcommittees that is not something that we're really, and not that there's no discussion to be had, but if we're not going to have active participation in that, we need to be mindful of that. We need to create subcommittees that we know we're going to thrive in and we're going to be impactful. Because we're all really busy, but we're still tasked to do our jobs and do it well. So that's the only thing I'm saying, is that I'm supportive of subcommittees, but I also want to make sure that there's subcommittees that are going to thrive and have some real life and be impactful.
I agree.
And the sense I'm getting is that, and these would be ones that would be bringing back committees that we used to have, the Budget Facilities Committee and the Curriculum and Instruction, and those do seem like the areas in which we tend to feel the most like we need all the information we can get to stay up with things. And so if I'm taking the sense of the group here properly.
What was the third one? We lost track.
The third one you mentioned was
Technology.
technology, which I could see as being part of what curriculum and instruction.
Or facilities.
Or facilities.
Or facilities, yeah.
My
More budget.
instinct is to not make,
Too
to make
many.
fewer committees rather than more committees.
I agree.
So I would say my instinct would be to roll technology in as it's relevant to budget and or curriculum and talk about it there, and just make those two additional committees.
I think right now we have Tony Baroni as, she's working in conjunction with curriculum instruction anyway.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I don't have a strong feeling either way about them having to be official board committees versus superintendent's committees, but it seems to me that there's a fairly strong feeling that it would be good, and I certainly recognize the strength of the arguments for making them official and following Brown Act with them, even though sometimes it's desirable to be able to wander off into whatever aspects of conversation seem appropriate.
Well, I think that's why Mr. Vidales did mention he still has his option of having a superintendent committee that would be considered ad hoc as well, correct? So I think that option is always there, especially for things like the city, or even I'm thinking local districts and the high school district. Because now we're talking about community schools and the whole nine, so we do need times to get together with our other colleagues, but we wouldn't need it all the time, so.
Like I say, those committees aren't going away. We have these.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we establish a board subcommittee for curriculum instruction and one for budget and finance. Or can I?
Budget.
Oh, all right. Budget and facilities, pardon me.
I'll second your motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Let us consider those committees to be established. One thing we didn't determine was, I guess it does say there, if we establish them, we would appoint 2 members to serve on those subcommittees. I would say that would be the thing we do next. Do we have people who have a particular interest in serving with the Budget Facilities Committee? Everybody wants curriculum.
All right, I'll
You know what?
volunteer.
Wait,
I'll
who's on
volunteer.
who's on the high school board? Is it up?
The high school.
That other, I think it's you and me, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'll pass on the curriculum because somehow we'll get some of that later. But I'll go with the facilities and budget. The budget is my best. But you can help me. If nobody else.
So we
wants
have Mr. Ali and Ms. Brizuela for the budget and facilities?
No, I thought
did
you want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
you don't want
everyone was
curriculum?
quiet.
Okay.
Okay, so we do have two nominees for the budget facilities. So we have a motion. So a little bit odd here. Do we have anybody else who wants to be considered?
It was quiet, but.
No, it was very quiet. Yeah, we all want to know more about the budget, but none of us want to sit in that meeting. Okay.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, now she's pulling out what we have to do.
We've made her mad, and we're in deep trouble now. Okay, could we have a motion and a second for having Ms. Brizuela and Mr. Ali serve as our representatives to the Budget and Facilities Committee?
So I motion to approve our board members Brusuela and Ali for our Budget and Facilities Budget and Facilities Subcommittee.
I would second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, curriculum and instruction. If I remember correctly, I'm not actually serving on much in the way of committees, so I would be happy to volunteer for that one.
Okay,
I'm also interested in that one.
okay, then I'll make a motion to nominate Fo and Rebecca to serve on the curriculum and
Instruction.
Instruction, oh gosh, of course, it goes hand in hand. Subcommittee.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so we have our committees, we have our representatives. Well done.
Great.
Okay, item H. I've scribbled all over my thing now and I can't read it. Resolution number 16-03-09C in support of Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016. The board will consider adopting resolution, I just read, in support of Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016. And
So when the agenda was published, we've made some editing to the resolution. I have here the edited version. The paragraph second to the last, whereas at the bottom, missing some connecting words.
it had grammatical issues.
It should be a conditional statement, and it was just a statement.
It does make a difference.
So the if then makes it read more appropriately.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's the
And
only change there.
I do have a speaker card from Ms. Dart.
Yes, Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. As was stated earlier, it does take all of our community to keep our schools strong. And in this case, it wasn't that long ago when our schools were every single year making cuts. It was really tough times for this board and for the schools and for the students and the community. We are only now starting to put back some of those things that the cuts that we had to cut because of budgetary, because of no money. And because of Prop 30, which began to repair the bleeding, so we no longer have those cuts every year, we have been able to restore some of those things, such as a few more librarians, library aides, and night custodians, and all those things that make our schools, much more welcoming and great for our students. So, as you know, Prop 30 doesn't last forever, and we don't want to go back to those days of the cuts. So I would strongly urge us, you all, to pass this resolution, and we will all need to make sure that it passes in the fall. Thanks.
All right.
Can I start? Is there any discussion on this?
Yeah, well, my first night on the board, we were making cuts. So I'm glad to see any type of effort being made to keep money. And what I really like the most is the last paragraph where it says, the Children's Education and Health Care Protection Act of 2016 would extend the temporary income tax increases on wealthy Californians for an additional 12 years, while allowing the sales tax provision of Proposition 30 to expire, making this extension of Proposition 30 revenues a purely progressive tax paid for by taxpayers well able to continue to afford the modest increase while benefiting all of public education. So I think that's a good point, and I don't know if that was the plan all along to do it that way, but it's brilliant, and hopefully, we're supporting this, hopefully, and hopefully it'll pass.
I did want to note that we don't usually put in resolutions for things that haven't even made it onto the ballot yet, but I felt like this is so important to our schools that I wanted to, this was sort of my feeling, was if you guys are in agreement, let's get our voice out there now to say, hey, this is important. So if anybody's wondering, that's why it's on here so early in the process for us to have this opportunity.
So this is our sales
Slide.
tax, right? The sales tax.
This is to let the sales tax sunset, but extend the tax on the higher income
Yes.
Californians, yeah.
Which is fine with me. No.
Not gonna affect me.
Not going to affect me. I don't have that much money. No. Yeah, but because recently I had to make a phone call to Florida, and I was inquiring about buying something there, and they told me the sales tax is 12%. And here we are complaining about our sales tax, I mean, hey, it's high a lot of places. So, and that's for everybody, not for just rich people, but.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's why it's nice to see the sales tax, which is a regressive
But this was
tax.
well-written, and we need to keep this going. So.
I think it's important that we pass a resolution support extending the Prop 30 income tax, at least for higher income, because I was a student. I went to these public schools. I remember when they slashed programs here, slashed programs there. I remember when I was in high school, they actually slashed the program midway through a semester because they just didn't have enough funding for it. So if there's anything we can do to stop that from ever happening again, I'm all supportive of that.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to approve the resolution number 16-03-09C in support of Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016.
I'll second that.
Before we vote on, I just want a quick little question. Why is there a C at the end? Was it like the third one written?
Yeah, I believe
Oh.
there's every resolution gets a letter designation, so we've already had A and B during consent. This is C.
Uh-huh.
I think we'll have another one later that will be Oh, 16, it has no letter because it was the first one put on the agenda.
Oh,
So-
okay. Okay, I was just wondering, I said, wait a minute, okay. All right, we can.
All right, we need a roll call vote for this, please.
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Mr. Koo,
Aye.
Dr. Douglas.
Aye. All right. We gotta do now, just get it passed. Okay. Section 9, under curriculum and instruction, item C, Susan B. Anthony overnight camping trip. The administration recommends approval of the overnight stay request by grade 3 Susan B. Anthony classes. They will have at least 4 teachers from SBA and Wilderness School supervising 65 students at the San Bruno Mountain Park on May 19th and 20th, 2016. This trip is in collaboration with and funded by the Jefferson Union High School District's Wilderness School with additional funding provided by the town of Colma. An additional 15 to 20 volunteers from Wilderness School will also chaperone various aspects of the trip. Who is speaking to that, or if there's any?
No, there's no more to say. This is an annual trip that they do, and every time students have overnight trips, it's not the county-sponsored outdoor education program. The board does need to authorize that in order for it to be covered and be a school program.
How, but it's funded by the Wilderness School. We're not funding anything at all? Just providing the students. All right. Well, being that I grew up right down the hill from San Bruno Mountain in Bayshore, I love that area, and I walk past that area all the time, so I know where they'll be. And I actually know a lot of the students, the high school students, who will be mentoring them as well. And I know they have a good time in that trip. Outdoor education is extremely important, so I definitely would like to make a motion to approve if there's no other. Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the overnight camping trip for Susan B. Anthony, May 19th and 20th, 2016.
Second.
Well, I would like to say something before we didn't discuss it. But anyway, these programs are really beneficial, not only to the students involved in the wilderness program, but also our students. And it's been going on for a while now.
Yep.
And I just want to put a good word out there for one of our retired teachers, Sydney Aries, who is a diehard going out there with those children. And she's terrific with the older students and the younger ones. And I just recently saw her, and I said something. She goes, "Oh, that program is, it should really drive me crazy, but I love it."
I'm sure.
But she's doing a great job, and so it's nice to know that one of our former teachers is still out there with our children. So,
Okay, so we have the motion and the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And no opposition. Yeah, I of course always love that, because I'm big on the whole camping and
Yeah.
hiking thing. And they do walk up from SBA.
Yeah, and I think at least Ms. Gardner-Burke credits that third grade program with giving her school one of the highest participation rates in the fifth grade week-long
Yeah.
overnight camping outdoor education experience, because they experienced it as third graders and they realized they were not going to melt or something happened to them when they spent one night away from home, so they were willing to take 4 nights away from home as fifth graders. So.
And that's great, because it breaks my heart when fifth graders miss that opportunity.
well, we don't realize that San Bruno Mountain is really important, and that if certain developers had their way, that whole mountain would be filled with houses, and it's a shame because a little piece of it is going away every now and then. Recently,
Right,
the
Brisbane.
city of
The park.
Brisbane
Yeah.
Yeah, the
voted to
Brisbane
build
Park.
$200,000 homes on there,
Mhm.
which takes away from the children and families. And a lot of our children don't have an experience to go camping, and so these programs give it to them.
Mhm.
So we gotta make sure San Bruno Mountain stays put as a mountain.
Okay, section 10, business and financial procedures. Item C, resolution number 16-03-09, resolution electing to pre-qualify bidders and regarding bidder pre-qualification procedure and rating standards for the TRP Phase 2B project.
Okay.
Public
Is it-
Contract Code Section 20111.5 authorizes public school districts to require bidders for contracts under Public Contract Code Section 20111 to submit to a pre-qualification process. The district desires to pre-qualify contractors as bidders to the Phase 2B TR Policita Middle School project. Administration recommends adoption of this resolution. Resolution electing to pre-qualify bidders and regarding bidder pre-qualification procedure and rating standards for the TRP Phase 2B project.
Well, that's a mouthful.
No kidding.
Was there ever a time that we didn't
Yes,
pre-qualify?
yes. Years ago.
Well, actually, I think that for a job like this, we're pre-qualifying, and I'm not certain if the bids we get for other jobs that are being done are actually pre-qualified or not. I can't speak to those.
They have a minimal level of pre-qualification because they do need to be responsible bidders, so we determine what that means. This level of pre-qualification is a little bit more because it's a much more complex project. It's not just one contractor working at a time on a particular project. It's going to be several trades working at the same time on a project. So the process describes some of the things that we felt were important. We do still take the lowest bid from all of the folks who meet that pre-qualification standard. But it does allow us to make sure that these folks have good working records in other jobs similar and have taken on complex jobs such as this in the past.
As
But
you
at
know-
least the
I'm sorry.
level of pre-qualification that we did have included union
Oh, yes.
workers. All right, I just want to make sure that that's
Absolutely.
said publicly because we have a lot of our community members that are part of the, Labor Council, and that's something that always comes up
Right.
with them.
It's
So-
also published.
All right.
And as you know, because this is a multi-prime job, which means we have basically the construction manager that will oversee all the jobs. The construction manager, we don't have to choose the lowest bidder because we want a professional there. We want to make sure that whoever's there, that we're choosing the one that we feel will represent the district the best. But when it comes to the bidding process for all the different trades, we are, by law, we have to take the lowest responsible bidder. And we don't want to end up with, 50 bids for each area, only to find that the majority of them are not qualified.
So
Got it.
this is a streamlining process in hopes of getting things done on schedule.
Yeah, there's lots of things that in the past, whether it was the city or the district, that you took the lowest bidder and then, God forbid, you were so sorry afterwards. So I think the way they write it up now, there is safeguards for us, that we'll get good people, responsible people that'll do the job and not leave us halfway through.
It's quite a rigorous thing. They
Yeah.
have to show financial statements to show that they can afford to do it. They've got to be able to be bonded and insured, and they've got to show that they've done jobs for public school districts within the last 5 years, 5 jobs. They have to have reference checks. It's and I've done this before as well, and it really kind of makes you feel better about who's bidding on the job.
Are we open to any complaints if we do this?
Oh, no, no, by doing this resolution, you were much less likely to
All
get
right.
complaints.
All right.
Because everybody has the right to try to pre-qualify.
Oh,
And if we didn't, and we said, okay, you might be the lowest bidder, but we don't think you're responsible, we don't think you're good, then they could challenge us on that. But here, we're already determining if we think that they have the qualifications to bid.
perfect.
Yeah. I appreciate this process, because we talk about quality, accountability, and transparency, and especially when we're talking about building our schools, we definitely want it right. So unless there's a further discussion, I do want a motion to approve resolution number 16-03-09.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, this is a resolution, so we need a roll call.
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Mr. Koo,
Aye.
Dr. Douglas.
Aye. Okay. Okay, item D, fiscal year 2015-16 second interim budget review. Business
dear.
Office has produced the second interim for the period ending January 31st. And the administration recommends that the Board of Education review the second interim, approve the filing of positive certification of financial condition, and approve the revision to the working budget to correspond with the projected year total.
What's that noise? Is that me?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, that was it.
Somebody's in trouble.
Good evening. And I'm
Good
happy
evening.
to see everybody here. This is nice. So this evening, we have the second interim report. The interim reports are presented to you twice a year, the first interim and the second interim. They're required to be approved by you twice a year to show the financial condition of the district that we can cover this year and the two subsequent years financially, that we can manage that. The first interim you've already done. That was at the end of it was the actuals up through the end of, actually, I want to say it's really based on the budget, but it was as of October 31st, so what the budget was as of that date. And the second interim is as of January 31st, and this is really loud here, isn't it? A snapshot of time of that date. And included in the interim report are multi-year projections that for the year 16-17 and 17-18, and those are those two subsequent years that we have to show we can support. And then in this presentation, we include the year, I include the year 18-19, and it's just for the presentation. That's not an official part of the report. So I want to go over what has happened since the first interim. At the first interim, we explained to you the changes since the adopted budget, and at second interim, I'm going to explain some of the major changes, the more significant ones, since the first interim. So first off, with the unrestricted revenues, you can see here that the total change in unrestricted revenues has gone down by $1.1 million. I'll be able to explain that. The first three sections have actually increased, and so it's the last section here that caused the reduction in revenues. So here's what the reduction of the first three, an increase in revenues, and the first one was the revenue limit. The LCFF increased by $224,000. That was because the state decided to fund the LCFF target gap at a greater percentage. So instead of 51.52, they decided to do 51.97 because the revenues allowed it, state revenues allowed it. So that was a 0.45% increase, almost a 0.5% higher than what they had originally planned. In addition to that, our unduplicated student count, so that would be the free and reduced, the English learners, and the foster youth, unduplicated count increased. It actually is quite steady from other years, but at the beginning of the year, it appeared that it was going to go down. And so once we got the certification, we raised it up to what the certification was. And this is a 0.99% increase, so almost a 1% increase. So you can see how a 1% increase in our unduplicated count and a 0.5% increase in the gap funding creates a $224,000 increase in revenues for us. So that unduplicated count is really important that we capture. We don't want our students to be from poor families. But if they are from poor families, or if they are English learners, we want to capture them and include them in the unduplicated count, because if we don't, we lose funding, and you can see how much funding we can lose by that. So then, and federal revenues have gone up approximately $60,000, and that was from MAW revenues, which is the Medi-Cal administrative activities. We're not recognizing those funds until we receive them now. We've had some problems in the last few years where the feds have changed things on us, and they kind of took funding back, and so now we're just recognizing it when we get it. Local revenues are up $49,000, and we had a solar rebate for $30,000, and also site donations have increased. We only recognize those when we receive them. We don't actually budget for them. So what decreased? Well, we have a $1.4 million decrease here, and basically it's an increased contribution from the unrestricted to restricted special ed is recognized like a reduction in revenues, because it comes out of the revenues and moves over to support special ed. So, and then the routine maintenance is just a factor, it's a percentage, and so we move over 3% of our expenditures. Well, our expenditures, including unrestricted expenditures. So if our expenditures increased in special ed, then it's going to follow suit that the routine maintenance would also increase the contribution to it. So why did our special ed expenditures increase by so much, $1,368,000? Well, the biggest reason for this is because, as you know, we have students in county classes. Since last year, 14-15 year, they've increased the cost of those classes by 25%. That's really big increase. That's a huge increase, and that we only learned about recently. Additionally, there are a lot of one-on-one aides they've increased the number of one-on-one aides in the county classes, and other services as well that are all in. A lot of county costs have increased. Now, as you know, you've been approving increased special day classes at Jefferson Elementary School District. And the intent for that is to not have to send out so many students to the county classes as well as consortium classes to other districts, so that we can educate them ourselves. And that is an investment today. But for future, we're hoping to be able to educate those kids. As kids go out to county classes, that cost is so much higher, and so many districts are pulling them back that the costs are not reducing as much as the number of kids being removed. You still have all the administrative expenses and other expenses, or a classroom that may have had 9 students in it might have only 8 or 7 in it, and so that cost is going to get spread out. So the cost of county classes is by far the biggest reason for that increase, and as you know, we're hoping to not place kids, and as kids age out of some of the older kids age out of the county classes, we hope that we will retain them here and give them the appropriate services that they need. So that's really what has caused what looks like a reduction in revenue, but is really an increase in expenditures in special ed, and the revenues following those students. So then we go on to expenditures. Expenditures have increased approximately $500,000 or $449,000 rounded. And for the most part, all these are very nominal. It's really in the services here. So we have $430,000 of increased services. And here, and what that's coming from is student transportation for special ed. So if we're, you know, we've got the students there, and the costs are higher. They're higher everywhere. So almost $200,000 additional expenses from that. And then that scanning project that was increased, that's showing up here. So see, that's $400,000 right there, and then just some other expenditures for the donations. We had the increased donations. We have increased expenditures. right? Or budgeted expenditures. It doesn't necessarily mean all these will happen. Remember, the interim report is based on budget, not actual expenditures. The other items are quite small. So at first interim, we had expected our year-end balance for June 30th, 2016 to be just over $10 million. And now with these change, the decrease in revenues and the increase in expenditures, we now are expecting just under $9 million in balance. And then, of course, we've got our reserve for economic uncertainty. So after that, we have $5.5 million of available funds to support our cash flow, mostly. So the interim, as I said, includes multi-year projections, and I want you to know what is included in those multi-year projections. So what we've got is the COLA increases for each of the years, and this is what the state is saying. And then what the expected LCFF gap funding will be, but this is the school services one, is slightly more conservative than the DOF, Department of Finance's estimate. And so we, as you know, we like to be on the conservative side. I'd much rather come back to you with good news than with bad news. Unfortunately, special ed costs are up, and we can expect that to continue to rise. But, nevertheless, we'd like to come back to you with positive news. So we budget more conservatively, and these are the amounts, and the 49.08 for next year, that is the state and school services all have the same number for that. Other state funding remains flat. Now the 16-17 budget, because the January governor's proposal doesn't include one-time monies, and as we're getting used to it, the governor likes to have one-time monies and put out there, wants to first make sure those monies are going to continue to come on before he folds them into ongoing monies. So the 16-17 year has incorporated in it $1.3 million of one-time funds, which the governor's calling for mandated cost reimbursements, and it's used for whatever purposes we need. It's unrestricted. So that will be included, and it will not be included in the out years after 16-17. So 16-17 has that in, and then it is taken away from 17-18 and 18-19. And of course, we're hoping that those years will also have either one-time or ongoing that compensate for the removal of the one-time funds. Federal revenues are, we kept them flat in the multi-year projection, and the ADA we've also kept flat. And unduplicated count, this is maintaining what we have now, and really, we've really stayed pretty steady in 73 percentile for the unduplicated count. Actually, we've never dropped below it. So, and it's a 3-year rolling average. And so this is what we look like, and very close, very tight. Not, unless there's some big change, we hope to maintain this. And then the big thing, other than the one-time funds, is to always remember the increase of STRS and PERS. So for the current year in STRS, we have 10.73% we're paying, and for PERS 12.60%. And out here in the furthest year out, STRS is going from 10.73 to 16.28, and that is included in our multi-year projection. And that in the year 2021 will go up to 19.1%, and that will be where it's supposed to peak and stay for a good 30 years. And then the PERS at 12.6% in 18-19 will go to 18.2%. As you see, each year in between it graduates a little higher and higher. And by 2021, it should go to 20.4%. So for every dollar we pay a classified individual, we're paying 20 cents to the retirement. And this is obviously because the retirement fund is not sustainable the way it is now. So, and so just to remind you, if it hadn't increased a couple of years ago, from the not increase to the full increase, that's a cost to the district, a yearly cost to the district of $6.5 million more, extra costs in that. And so when they were talking about giving us these monies and increasing everything, they never increased it for that. So we have to pay for that. There's no additional funds coming at this point to support that. And then step and column is included in the budget. So what does it look like? Here's the second interim multi-year projection. The first column is this year, and we expect a $1.1 million strategic spending of reserves. But remember, we usually have carryover of some sort, and so this number will likely go down, although I think there will probably be some spending. The following year, we have a $1.5 million extra, and again, there's a $1.3 million one-time funds in there. When that goes away, we have a reduction. So then we're going to be strategically spending again, unless it's one-time funds again, or it goes up higher, it's folded in. So, you know, we can't predict that. I'm going to, well, I mean, I could predict that I think the one-time funds will go on, but we have some other things that we'll have to consider. So in doing so, you can see our fund balance here. I'll go to the next page, slide. Our fund balance at the end of this year is here. It kind of goes up a little bit next year and then back down. So we'll see what's actually funded. You know, May revise will come out. We'll be able to change things. We'll get through our negotiations, and then we'll see what the future brings. But I did want to show you the more conservative one, which is, like I said, not as conservative as before. So this is using the Department of Finance's gap funding. And that's really the only difference between this one and the other one. As you can see, with that, this year will be the same, next year will be the same, because we're using the same gap funding percent. The following year is only $20,000 strategic spending, whereas the other one was $800,000. On the other hand, the one we're using has only $630,000, I think it's rounded, 629, use of reserves in 18-19, where the more conservative, the more liberal one has a higher one. And that's because, well, I'll get on to the next slide and I'll explain that to you, why that happens here. This is the more liberal funding. As you see, the end fund balance is a little bit better, but not a huge amount better. It's about $306,000 better than the other way. So things to keep in mind. What's not included in the multi-year projection, and that is salary and benefit increases. Okay, so that we go into negotiations and we discuss that and see what we can afford and bring that to you, and or any kind of expansion in programs. So this is with the status quo with the programs we have now. This budget, it is not with any increase. We go through the LCAP, we decide what should be increased or not increased, and that will cause this to change. And then, like I was saying about the difference between the school services gap funding level and the state gap funding level, and how there's not that much difference anymore. And that's because as the years go by, the difference between the conservative and the liberal gap funding is going to diminish, because the gap is getting smaller and smaller. In 1 year, they're going to say 100% gap funding. Well, that might be $1 per student. It depends how much that gap is at that time. So once we get the 16-17, we're working on the 16-17 budget, and with the revenues that we're expecting to get, the funding of the LCFF gap, once we get that, at that point, we'll only be $3.3 million behind full funding at that time. But it keeps growing, so it'll grow again. So yeah, so there won't be that much more to get. It's still significant, but it's not. I mean, we started out with having, like, oh gosh, I think I had written it down, but not here. over like 19, $20 million. And now we're down to about 3. And then once the gap is fully funded, we're likely to be funded on COLA. And you saw those COLA rates. They are often really low. I mean, for next year, 0.47%, and many times 2 or 3%. And in case anybody was sleeping, Prop 30, as we know, the sales tax will expire this December 2016, and then the personal income tax will expire December 2018 unless it gets onto the November ballot and gets passed, which kudos to everybody here for seeing that ahead of time and taking the brave step to support it now instead of waiting for it to be on the ballot. And so the sales tax for the Proposition 30 funds that come in, the sales tax represents about 1/6 of those funds, where the personal income tax is about 5/6 of those funds. So by extending that, we don't have to bite our nails quite so much for 12 years. I'll be retired. Hopefully that will happen. And we won't be faced with a huge cut in that. But, still part of Prop 30 will sunset, and so we will have to deal with that. So we are able to meet our financial obligations for the current year and the following 2 years. So I do recommend approving the second interim with positive certification. And any questions?
Yeah, very good job. I could tell that you had a lot of fun putting this together. And but my question is, when the funding gap is closed, and then we're paying all of that extra money for retirement and what else is going on?
Yeah, it's the retirement. Yeah.
Retirement.
And Prop 30, comes to a close.
Thank you.
What do we do then?
Well, hopefully we'll see the writing on the wall, and we'll be able to, react to. There's always going to be peaks and valleys, and we haven't seen our last downturn. It's normal cycle of the economy, of any economy, and so we will have downturns again. And one thing is, I think these last few years have really helped in assessing what we want to do, and also putting funds out there that are a little easier to be able to pull back if we need to pull them back. And just always kind of being aware of what are the programs that, what are our priorities, and the LCAP is helping us determine what our priorities are. Mm-hmm. So if we do have to pull back, hopefully we'll find the right balance. We'll see what's left and really just kind of look at it and say, okay, what can we sustain? And there may be temporary cuts someday in the future. But the LCAP will hopefully be able to prioritize what's the most important to maintain and what, unfortunately, might have to be the first to go for a temporary period of time. But then it also gives the opportunity to reevaluate, because sometimes things continue on because people have gotten used to doing them. Mm-hmm. And maybe the reevaluation process can be helpful from time to time.
Right. So as far as our reserves, on slide 9, when we look at the fund balance reserves, the 5,000, and then total available reserves, 8,906,000 at the all the way at the bottom.
Right. Well,
are those two separate accounts?
Okay, what it is that we've separated out the reserve for economic uncertainty.
Oh yeah, that one, 3
So
million.
if you add them together, and then this is in Fund 17. this is in Fund 17, that is not the funds that have been reserved, committed for textbook purchases, because those funds are still there. They're not included in this number here because they're not available because they've been committed. Those are the funds that the board can uncommit if need be in the future, as well as the.
92,000?
No, there's a lot more. There's 6 million.
Oh, all right.
92,000 is the part that's not committed.
All right.
It's the part that is still, is open, available.
Right.
There was $6 million that was put away to support textbook purchases.
Right.
And then, of course, Fund 20 as well, which we don't want to, but if you needed to, you could. And Fund 20 was the reserve for post-employment benefits. And that's got about half of what our liability would be. But those funds could also be uncommitted if necessary.
So we would have 8 million left in our actual account, 8.8 million.
General fund.
But then we would still have 8.9 million in reserves?
This is the general fund. So this
All right, that's
8.8 is in the general fund.
All right.
But in Fund 17, that's for textbooks is an additional 6 million, and then in Fund 20, an additional 8 million for post-employment benefits. Those funds, if we needed to, those would be one-time funds, but if we needed to, they could be pulled in to support something if the board had decided that they wanted to do that by uncommitting those funds.
We're going to learn a lot more about it on the committee.
Yep.
I will talk your ear off at that.
No, I'm done.
That committee, we'll just make it half-day sessions.
All right. Once or twice a year, that's it.
So one of the observations I made, and thank you, Ms. Kessler, for the presentation, is that the state only requires a 3% economic uncertainties, and the board in the past said, let's make that 5%.
All right.
Being able to respond to an increase in costs from the county special ed program, it's a luxury for us in some ways. Like, we are able to do that because we have a reserve that we can tap into. If we hadn't only maintained a 3% required reserve, we don't have any additional reserve above that, we would be needing to certify ourselves negative or qualified at this point because we wouldn't be able to have enough. So you see how tenuous this whole situation is, and how we are able to respond to what seems like a small increase. Well, it was a big increase, but it compared to our budget, fairly small. It was we would be having to not ask you to certify positive. We'd be asking you to certify, qualified or negative, and then coming back to you the spring with, let's cut this, let's cut that. So the reserve serves as that extra cushion that we can respond to these things, and eventually we'll need to respond to a downturn in the economy, and the reserve will be there to help us respond to that.
All right, thanks. I have one more question.
Yeah. So anyway, there was 20 districts that at the end of first interim that needed to be qualified or negative.
You read that today, too.
Yeah, I read that today. It's like, wow, that's a lot,
That's a
even
lot.
with the increase of the LCAP funding. And two of them are the largest school districts in California. One is Oakland and the other one's Los Angeles.
Los
So
Angeles is
that
always
was,
in trouble.
anyway, that was something, that's shocking to hear because they also have very large percentage of free and reduced as well as English learners. So we're in a good place, and thank you to the board for the direction you've provided us and allowing, being able to strategically use our reserves so that we can respond to news like this. And hopefully in August, we'll get news from the county to say, it actually didn't cost us that much
Yeah.
to educate your students.
So we're hoping
So
for.
you get some money back.
money back, yeah.
So, but we won't know until August, September.
All right. I just have one more question, which is just to get my mind around what we actually do have available for strategic use. It's really about 3 million. If you take away the textbooks and
If you uncommit the textbooks?
Well, no, if we keep the textbooks
okay.
committed,
Mm-hmm.
that's about how much we have to, each year
We
is
would
about
have,
3.3?
we would have 5.5 million
Oh,
here.
5 and, all right, so that's what I kind of wanted
This is
to-
what we want to keep. Well, this is, like I said, this is 5%. We're only required to keep 3.
All right,
But this is what we have. We could
all right,
diminish.
Right.
all right,
Oh,
thanks.
yeah.
Undesignated, unappropriate,
That's the one I need to
Is
pay
the-
attention
Uncommit.
to.
uncommitted.
The terminology is actually really important on it.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Sure.
And, I just want to also say, though, that, yes, I'm very happy that, once again, that we're, certifying positively.
Oh, me too. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
if there are no
you.
other questions, then can we have a motion to
Anybody else have
approve the
questions?
filing? Nobody else seems to have questions. Charlie.
Well, I'll make the motion then.
Okay, you can read it off.
I make the motion to approve the second interim report for 2016.
We need to, if you look on the
me to
agenda, it's
say
got a
more?
specific list of what we have to approve here.
All right, what
We
did
reviewed it, but we need to approve the filing of positive certification and the revision of the working budget.
All right, so also to approve the revision of the working budget to correspond with the projected year totals
So we have a motion to approve the filing. of
and the filing of positive certification.
And approve the revision of the budget. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I don't hear any opposition. Okay. Down here to section 13, board policies. Second reading on our board policies on agenda and meeting materials. Those of us who were here at our last meeting were quite happy with them. There have been a couple of little
Bylaws,
tweaks
you
and
mean?
adjustments.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't make any further changes, as I recall, at the last meeting, so,
So there was no changes?
there was no changes.
Well, this was, but you already knew this.
Those were the changes that were made before the last meeting, yeah. No further changes.
No further changes, okay.
Yeah.
So we're separating that from the other one, right?
Right, so,
I think we just brought it back because,
brought it back because there were
Right
only
here.
3 of us, and it felt right to let you guys, at least notice that we were doing it. So,
Punishment, right? The opposite. Okay.
come
the-
do work.
we make you do
That's right. I
For
had,
this class, you still have to do
oh
the
my
homework.
God, I
You're
had so
responsible.
much to read. Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve for a second reading, Board Policy Administrative Regulations, BP 9322, concerning the agenda, meeting materials.
You got a second?
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Ali. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
Now the big one.
Okay, that was the easy one.
That was easy.
Okay, then we have further board policy revisions. The December 2014, you will notice we are falling a little behind on these again. Board policy revisions for first reading. If there was any discussion.
So this is the first reading, right?
This is a first reading.
That good, that I have time to go back and read it again?
You do have time to go back and read it again before the next
I
meeting.
read it so fast, I don't even know if I remember what I read.
And again, most of these changes are just responses to laws passed and updates to new laws. And as Dr. Douglas mentioned, we are about a year behind, but there's more coming. Those of you who are on the board policy subcommittee, 2 more binders coming our way in the next couple weeks. So.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Now, these are recommended by, these are recommended by
CSBA, yes.
But since I wasn't here to hear anything about it, what, oh no, none of you.
No, this is
The
here for the
first
first reading
Oh,
on
okay.
this section of
So
them, so.
why did they do all these, taking everything out about the diabetes thing?
Can you tell me which page
Oh,
it
I'm
was?
sorry. It's Administrative Regulations 5141, point 3D, and it's like they took the whole thing out. Do we no longer take care of anything?
There are a couple that are deleted altogether. Let's see, 5141.3.
Yeah, but it's probably in the
D.
front too. I just turned to that page, but it's mentioned someplace else as well. But I just was wondering why they took that out.
So this is an optional component there about education about type 2 diabetes, and we don't do that. We don't do these, we don't have that program in our district.
Okay, but is it something that we should have? I was just wondering why it's there,
Yeah,
why it's taken
yeah,
out.
well, it is, like as I mentioned, it's an optional
Yeah.
for districts who have this program and want to increase diabetes awareness. We don't have that currently as part of our school program in 7th grade. So we struck it out because we don't have that program, and we don't, we can still do that, but we're not required to do that.
Okay, so the reason we're constantly hearing about, good habits for the students so they don't get diabetes early in life. So I just wonder why this would not be here. If it's almost like saying we don't have a problem, but sometimes I think we do.
No, I think we do have the problem, and
Yeah.
it is a big issue in our community. We just don't have this program in our schools. Some schools might have it, and they do pass out pamphlets and things like that, but if it puts it in the board policy, that means all schools must do it. So.
Well, could we just, instead of just, we have time, but instead of just saying we take it out because we don't have it, that maybe we could find out whether or not it's important that we would notify families about this.
Okay, well, I can look into
And I
it.
know we're
and
down
come
on
back.
nurses. I know we don't have a lot of, not I mean down on nurses, but we don't, we don't have a lot of nurses.
We're short on nurses.
We're short on nurses. But it seems to me we're like taking something out that maybe we're ignoring something here. And I just want to make sure that
Well,
we-
if the board feels like you'd want me to investigate this, I'd be happy to investigate it and then come back at the next meeting to say, how easy would it be to implement this?
yeah, if it's nothing that's going to break
Okay.
us, but, and if there is a need, I mean, we want kids to be more active and do sports and stuff, and,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought, it just struck me like, why is it being just,
I can come back at the next meeting with more information on that,
okay.
and we could decide to include it in our board policies if it's something that seems doable.
Okay. And maybe, Bernie, if you talk with some, I know you meet the other superintendents and find out what are other schools doing, and,
And as I read it, it sounds like it's an information sheet provided by the Department of Education, so.
yeah, so it can't be that difficult to say, maybe we could look at it somehow.
Sure.
And take care of it, even if it helps a few children, it's gonna help children. So, anyway, enough of that. You can let us know what you think later.
And Bernie, I did want to mention with regards to that, because I also looked at it as something we were not doing. But I do want to say that I wouldn't mind meeting with you, because I already work with organizations that provide that support. I'm just working with a different population, our 0 to 5,
Yep.
and their families, so we definitely could share those resources.
Thank you.
So, if we're going to ask him to take a look at some of that stuff, and we may want to put things back in that have been struck out, we want to just let this, right, we don't necessarily want to approve even a first reading at this
Yeah.
stage. So, if there's anything else that should come up, this is a good time to bring it up. Otherwise, I'm going to table that item, and we'll
Okay.
bring the first reading back again at the next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna take this with me so I can highlight some other things that I,
Okay, so this brings us to section 14, reports from board members on professional development. And last week, Shaquille Ali and I attended the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators Professional Development Summit in Sacramento. And we want to share some of what we learned at that.
This was their Cradle to College and Career Summit. And I don't know, actually, Mr. Lee, how much you have prepared or what you want to say on that. I'll let you go in, and then Mr. Lee attended for one day. I was there for 3, so I figure I probably have more to say.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Wow, that was a big,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go
All
ahead
right.
and go first.
I'll be brief. Yeah, so as Dr. Douglas said, we attended the conference. I went on the second day of the conference, and I went to 2 workshops. The first one I went to was, who was that name? I just had it. Here it is. The early impact of the LCFF, or the Local Control Funding Formula, on Black students. And it was presented by Dr. Will Greer, Dr. April Clay, Dr. Ayana Balakan, and Dr. Angela Loke. And my main takeaway from that meeting was that we should, well, they had a tool that they came up with, a rubric for determining how well our LCAP addresses the needs of African American students, specifically in the LCAP. So that was just something that they were putting together as a graduate school project. So they haven't published anything yet, so I wasn't able to get a lot of information, but I did at least get some, which shows the tool that they use. So I was gonna actually give it to Mr. V. Dollars, and of course you can pass it along to Ms. McCulick. So I'll give it to you now. And so I thought that was interesting. And one thing that came out in that seminar from one of the participants was that in her school district, they had an African American Advisory Council. And I thought that that was a good idea, and that's something that might be good for our district as well. The next workshop I went to was on restorative justice. And, you know, I do that kind of work, and our district really is, you know, in that direction right now. So I thought it would be great to go to that and find out if there was any extra information or anything I could bring back. And what they were focusing on in that seminar was disrupting the school to prison nexus, which, you know, when you go around to schools all over the country, you see a lot of the African American and Latino students in detention and in-school suspension, just being disciplined, so to speak, and that correlates later on to being incarcerated. So one way that they were talking about disrupting that nexus was by working with students who are incarcerated and getting them to tell their story so that they could decriminalize their story. They talked about disruptive dissonance, and then also there was one person who presented on brain research, and which was good. And he seemed to focus mainly on knowing about the amygdala and how that people go to fight or flight when they're dealing with stress or conflict. And there wasn't a lot of, I mean, it was theoretical, and because these were actually students, and they were just putting together, you know, research basically. So it was good, and I appreciated the research, but I did ask a question about practical application of it, and I just asked, could they say something about how a teacher and a student could use something physically to help with the effects of the amygdala hijack, or when their brain is telling them to fight or flee. And the answer he gave was semi-adequate. But I was just thinking that could be something that we could talk with whoever's doing PBIS in all our schools, is about having practical applications of now this brain research that's coming out about how to deal with conflict and how people respond to it. And that would be about it.
Okay. Yeah, I want to highlight a couple of sort of general points. I mean, obviously, I I was at a lot of workshops, a lot of sessions, more than I can share here. But I want to talk a few general points and then a couple of specific programs that I'm going to share with our district office that we may want to look into that might be of use to us. So one thing that was a repeated theme throughout the conference was that the learning gap starts more or less at birth. It's not something that starts when the kids get to our schools. This is not an excuse for us, obviously, but the children who are read to, talked to, taken places, start school with larger vocabularies, and that puts them ahead right from the beginning. And this ties in, I think, beautifully with what we saw with the community schools thing, and we had, in fact, the head of First Five, in our George Halverson, was there talking about the First Five is working to try and help break that cycle. And one of the things that I thought he said that was most encouraging was they've been doing an advertising campaign to increase awareness of the importance of those first 5 years, the first 3 months even, in talk to your baby, sing to your baby, read to your baby. And he says that it makes a difference. People, they're doing surveys to find out the effectiveness. And when people, lo and behold, when people learn this, they act on it because, as he pointed out, people typically love their children. They want what's good for them. So just spreading the word. If one parent realizes that I should be reading to my child, I should be talking to my child, and it doesn't matter if they're talking in English or whatever language. It is much more important that you're talking in a sophisticated way to the child. In a vocabulary, they're learning vocabulary. So that was one thing that came back up in a lot of places, was that, read to your baby. But Dr. Kimberly Papillon kicked off the conference with a plenary session also that was a fascinating look. We're again at current research in neuroscience and brains and developments and how our decisions, and what she talked about, what I was trying to filter out of some fascinating science for the practical end, as you say, was how our decisions about discipline, curriculum, grading, mentoring, and so forth are influenced by and influence unconscious processes, bias, and also the outcomes then for the students. And that led very smoothly into what I spent most of Wednesday on, which was a series of workshops modeling some of what they do, the CTA, California Teacher Association program on unconscious bias, and this is one of the programs I want to have us look potentially into this. I wasn't completely clear. I think what they said was it's free if you have CTA coverage. It's not if you don't. So I'm not sure where we would stand on that and whether it would be financially feasible. They do a 2-day workshop that basically helps participants. I mean, what I saw and what we were doing there was pull out those unconscious biases and look them in the face. Their specialty is really, really uncomfortable conversations. And we worked on that a little bit. It's an interesting process. But also, what they're doing, they're going back, again, it's research, that the number one reason that kids drop out of school is that somewhere along the line, often in very early grades, they may not drop out until high school, but they're having a negative experience with an adult at school while they're in our district, so to speak, at our level. Wherever that comes on. And of course, the converse is also true, that the number one reason that kids who have the same risk factors don't drop out of school is because somewhere along the line they connected with one adult who believed in them. And so the question then, of course, is that how you work on those connections. And as usual, those are relationship things. It's not easy to lay out a distinct plan, but one of those things is for people to be aware of what's going on in the back of their mind. We also know from research that if you expect higher performance from kids, you get it. If you expect lower performance, you get it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was brought up in a conversation at my table during that was that expectation doesn't just show up in terms of just ignoring a child, but can also be, and I know I'm guilty of this from when I graded papers teaching. I'm sure every teacher is, that you look at the paper that's the B minus paper, and it's like, yeah, okay, and you put a grade on it. And then you spend an hour writing extensive comments to the student who is almost an A+.
that's sending a message, that's also becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Failing to give feedback is a form of expecting a negative outcome. You know, so that's something that can often be an unconscious type of thing. Second workshop that I wanted to share was presented by Footsteps to Brilliance, which is a bilingual birth to grade 3 literacy program that is, in a nutshell, it is device-based, which made me a little bit like, but you know, it's designed to allow people, including parents who aren't themselves very literate, say, in English, to use this program with the child to have the books, the games, the reading aloud. I mean, the devices will read them aloud. It's currently bilingual in English and Spanish, so you can read it in English, you can read it in Spanish. Got a little demonstration, showed us you can slow down that English, or conversely the Spanish if you're trying to learn Spanish, so that you can hear it one word at a time and match it up to what's going on. So in a sense, it was, I mean, my initial reaction was kind of like, yeah, because like, okay, this is asking electronic devices to do what we should all be doing with our children. On the other hand, it's asking electronic devices to do what some people can't do with their children. So something that I thought was worth looking at more closely for feasibility. And one of the nice things about it is once it's in a community, like if we decided as a district to adopt it, it would become available for free to everybody in our community, whether they're connected to our district in any way or not. One of the school districts that was there that has the program, they've worked very hard with community partners again, to the extent that they had McDonald's putting in like wall-based tablets that allow kids to access the program right there in McDonald's play area. It's like, who'd have thought? You know, but, so this is a place where there could be potentially more of our community connections and outreach. And then I'm going to finish up here just what I saw throughout the conference in a lot of the sessions, things, you know, things on career days and so forth. STEM education was a very simple message, which is what's good for all African American kids in our district is the same thing as is good for all the kids. STEM education, early childhood programs, career awareness. And then, you know, so that you start to say, well, gee, why do we even need a special conference? Except that comes back, that unconscious bias, because we do need a special conference to make us aware, keep us looking at why are so few African American kids taking AP classes, taking AP tests? Why aren't they getting identified as GATE? You know, what's behind any of these places, particularly anytime there's anything subjective going on, being really aware of what's going on in our heads. So that's my 5-minute high-speed version of 3 days of fairly intensive, to the point that my brain was about to explode. Stuff, and I'm happy to talk to. Oh, I do have one other thing. Almost lost me there in the vendor section. There was a representative there from, oops, I'll get it in a minute, from Shea by the Bay Books, which specializes in books of African American and multicultural children's books, often by African American authors, but not necessarily. And one of the things I did, because I just thought it was a great resource to have this list of sort of pre-vetted books, that is, I got their list, their sales list, basically, of all these books, and they're broken down by age sections, which I wanted to share with both our school librarians and actually with our city librarians.
That's good.
Because often it's hard to know, well, I know we ought to have more, but which ones, what's good, so. And I only spent a little bit of money there. It was my own money. Okay, so that is.
Can I say one or two?
Yeah, please do.
Also, I had something else from Mr. Vidales. There was a couple gentlemen. They were, one was a school board member and the other, I forgot what he did, but they have a company that, they're contractors, but they also have the education aspect too, where they try to help young people get into trades as a career. So I know that's something that Ms. Dart and I have talked about before too, that we would want to support. So they wanted to contact Mr. Vidales. And then the other thing is, actually Dr. Douglas made me remember, In one of the workshops, one thing that they mentioned was that when we talk about the achievement gap, that it's really an opportunity gap that we should be focused on as well. So as we increase the opportunities and the interventions, then we would take care of the achievement gap.
I'll pass all this stuff down there when we're done here in a minute, get myself sorted out. Are there questions from any of you guys?
No, but I just want to say, did you guys receive like some magazines, one called Leadership and one called, what was the other one? I think it was the school board thing, but anyway, we got some magazines, and since I couldn't go anywhere, I decided to read a little bit, so I was reading it, and so I'm gonna bring it in to give it to Bernie as well. But it did talk about some of the students that, and we talked about it before, and I think it came up during our conference, when we went to the conference. It seems like when teachers are having problems with students, it's go to the office, or they get suspended, and that's what, they want to be suspended, some of the kids, because they don't want to be in school.
True.
And so they're losing the opportunity for education, and they're losing the opportunity to have somebody try to mentor them, you know, to pull them over. And so it was really, I thought it was a great article, and it seems like they're leaning towards that. And there's some legislation that's going to be passed, they want to pass soon, to say that we should not be doing that as, because they're always, like you just mentioned something to that fact too, that once you're disciplined about something all the time, and nobody believes in you, and you're going to keep on doing that motive. It's like, you know, parenting as well. I mean, parents need parenting, some of them. But they need to know that it's not all right to be yelling at kids all the time or making them feel they're not worthy, because they'll never succeed. So there's a big component out there that's saying that why the achievement gap is low. Maybe parents are not capable or able to help their students, and some of them are not around for one reason or another. So it gives the child that feeling that they're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's something I hope that we can all address and look at and see what can we do, even in our district, to be sure that there is another spot to keep these children with, you know, a certified teacher to teach them and help them and give them the incentive to go back to a classroom and not do the bad behavior. But otherwise, we're losing a lot of students because of that.
Well, I think the students actually that presented earlier today,
Yeah.
one of the young ladies mentioned something that I remember. She mentioned that they were getting rewarded
Yes.
with extra recess time for having a nice, neat, and clean line, right? But I can remember working in children's centers, and it's almost shameful to say this, but I saw a teacher who would make the students walk back and forth over and over again from the classroom to the yard, back to the classroom again, because they didn't do it right.
Yes.
And they lost recess time. They were being punished. So I think we're already doing that with positive behavior,
Yeah.
rewarding them for good things instead of punishing them for their quote-unquote bad behavior. So I just wanted to bring that up again and
No,
say
and I
that our
think we're on
district.
the right track, but
Yes.
I do think there's more that
Oh,
we need
yeah.
to do. And I think the idea is if we can possibly have the money to have more counselors, someone that's willing to talk with some of the children and find out what is really the reason behind that they don't feel they can be successful. Because children aren't born to not learn, and they're not born not to be good. It
That's
just
right.
happens,
That's true.
you know, so, anyway, I want to share that with you guys as well, even though I didn't get to go to the conference. But
Thank you.
we gotta do something, because we're
Well,
lacking.
we can count that as the,
Here, excuse me. You pass this
we're
to
moving
me.
on into the board member comments, reports, and reflections.
Oh,
in
that's
any
right.
case.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
So,
Sorry.
that's
I
okay,
jumped
you
the
can
gun.
consider that you have at least partially reflected.
Yeah,
Um,
partially, okay.
Well, you've commented, you haven't necessarily, it doesn't count right either, but you know what I mean.
Good, because some of the
Yeah.
things I read was some of the things you guys are talking about.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, and that's one of the things to see is that it's, things do all start to point in the same directions.
And I would say the same thing goes with our teachers. If there's times when they need to just know that they're doing something really good, but maybe in this area, this is a way of improvement. It worked, and they're doing it now, and I was in a room listening to it, not on purpose, but I mean, it was there. And I thought how great it is for a teacher to hear good feedback for what they're doing and still be able to accept something that they might be able to do just a little bit better. So it's not, it should never be a bad thing, or, you know, it should be, everyone needs some kind of help, you know.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but some people.
Okay, well then let us move on to our comments, reports, and reflections.
The last thing I'll just report on is actually from the EdCal magazine that we get, you know, as board members. Actually, this is for school, California school administrators.
Right.
So the article that caught my eye was CTC, which is a credential department, whatever, commission, yeah, thanks, addresses statutory leave teaching permits. So this addresses the fact that for special needs students, of substitute can only be consecutively in the class for 20 days and for regular ed 30 days. So there's going to be this new, hopefully, designation of a teaching permit for statutory leave, which would allow certain substitutes to stay beyond those 20-day and 30-day limits, which is actually important. I know for sure in the high school district, because I work as a long-term sub, but I'm sure that would benefit our district as well, especially for the hard-to-find positions. So I was really happy to find out about this, and we should be supporting this as much as we can. And the EdCal for February 29th. And the guideline that I focused on, I had to like get it really quickly, was we will listen actively to all ideas. We will listen openly without preparing responses. And since we were talking a lot about PBIS, active listening is a big part of positive behavior intervention and support. So I'll focus on that one tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, especially about hearing the impact of the children, because I think we talk about environment and how it impacts them and their learning processes. And there is concrete evidence showing that when they do experience trauma in the womb, they now are seeing that they're born with buried delays. You know, I mean, we're seeing that. And so I love that we talk about, we have these dialogues, not just because we're elementary. All of this is happening pre-us in many ways. So I love that we're looking at growing, serving that population. I love that we're involved with the summer programming, because that's where we see that continuity of learning, that there's no break in that. And it's so important that we're able to touch the lives of these children in every opportunity that we can. And I love that the district is doing that. And the one that I did choose was at the end of each meeting, we will reflect on how well we followed our meeting guidelines and addressed our goals. And I'm glad to say that I believe we did that. I did want to reflect very briefly on my weekend at the CSBA training in Southern California. I mean, I tried to get that out of the way at the front end when I came on board.
I was going to put you on the agenda for next week,
Okay,
the
let me
next meeting,
just-
so you and Mr. Koo can share about your learnings of
Okay,
your
then I
first term
will
board members.
refrain.
Just don't forget.
We'll give you the full time for that.
Okay, all right. But again, I hope you guys take advantage of any Women's History Month activities. And I have a lot of teachers that I'm thanking that I'm glad are still around, because, you know, they were predominantly women who shaped and changed my life, and I'm very, very thankful for them to this day. So
The history, the women's history thing for Daly
It's
City
tomorrow.
is tomorrow night?
Tomorrow here at 5.
Your turn to reflect.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yes, you.
Okay, me. Okay, I just wanted to say that I did visit a couple of the schools. It was yesterday and yesterday and then Monday. I had gone to Empoling Brown, which I mentioned earlier, and was very pleased with everything I saw. And they have this one big wall that they painted, and it's beautiful. It has a bear and trees and this and that, and it says, one child, one voice, which was the PTA motto. And so
Every child, one.
I mean, excuse me, thank you. It didn't sound right when I said every child, one voice. And as soon as I saw it, because I was just walking in, I said, that sounds like PTA's motto. And sure enough, it was a PTA parent that brought it up and said, I'd like to see that there. And got it paid for without any district funds to have that done. And it was really nice to see that, making everybody feel together. And I had gone to Tobias School as well, and they're doing very well, as naturally, doing real good. And Garden Village, I want to say that we have that partnership going. So they called me and asked if they could use our Broadmoor Hall, of course at no cost. They're bringing a class of children over, and it has something to do with, I think, a science field trip or something they took. So they want to come in and have space so they can reflect and do all this stuff. It'll be after school. You know, oh, no, it won't. It'll be during the day, from 10 o'clock to 3 or something like that. So it's because whoever is sponsoring this program said that the children should go to a different classroom. There's no extra classroom. So the teachers will come down with them, and also, I guess other parents will walk them over. It's a short walk across the street. So it's just a way of trying to work together and let them see that other people care about the kids.
Yeah.
So that'll be happening on Friday the 18th, if anybody's interested. Of course, I'll be there. Have to open and close it. So anyway, other than that, I thought the one I picked was number 11, about try to strive to support the district's message of showing up by attending the meetings. I really apologize for missing the last one. And arriving and starting on time. That's why I was kind of nudging you with making sure our clocks were in sync. And ending on time, and I think we're getting close to ending on time. So I do that. But I want to say, this is really nice that we have this and that we reflect on it. And I will have to say that so far we've been doing a good job of it. So maybe it's good that we reflect on it each time. Thank you.
For me, I picked We Will Work Toward the Future, learning from the past. I mean, a lot of what we talked about today was about the after-school sports program. We talked about trying to continue funding education through renewing Prop 30. We're talking about a lot of the stuff that you learned from your conference in Sacramento. So I felt a lot of us put on top of it, so we're just trying to learn from just any mistakes we've done in the past and try to build on top of that to better our school district.
And I focused on, we will listen actively to all ideas, we'll listen openly without preparing responses. Also, I think we did a pretty fair job of that. So, and like you say, I think it helps us to have these right in front of us all the time, and to know that we have to think about them and reflect on them.
And I haven't written on any of them. That's the first one I wrote on.
I have.
We should have little wipe-off pens so we can make notes. Okay. I have.
And may I actually say something? These are norms for our meetings, meeting guidelines. I will have to say that we're getting the same good response from our administration too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important too. So, you know, they're falling right into doing all the things like that we're doing. So thank you.
We do it all the time.
Well, I didn't say you did it.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, there you go.
See? Good role models for everybody.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, and I have no cards for anyone wishing to address the board on our closed session items, so we will take,
Did you draw that?
yeah,
You're good.
no, not really. We will take a moment here before we can break and then can reconvene to closed session for a moment of silence in memory of Leslie Schwarzbach, daughter of former board member Al
Oh
Schwarzbach.
my gosh.
So, you'd have a moment of silence. Thank you. We will recess for 5 minutes while we make our transition to closed session.